want to welcome you today to Unlocked Church. So excited that you are with us today. My name is Scot Mendenhall. I am the lead pastor of Unlocked Church, and I'm excited to be with you. Hey, if you're brand new to Unlocked Church, welcome. Unlocked Church exists to partner with people to unlock their God-given greatness in the Twin Cities. That's what we're trying to do. So enjoy today's topic. We're gonna talk about an amazing topic today. I'm really excited about it, but I need some props for it. So you're gonna come along the journey as I get ready for the teaching today, as we gotta run to Lowe's to get something for the teaching, and then we gotta run to Best Buy because my tripod is not working correctly. And so here is the topic. The topic of the day is, what do happy people know? If you're not happy, you're about to find out what every happy person knows. It's gonna be awesome today. I'm on my way to Lowe's to get the prop we were talking about a moment ago when I was on the boosted board. This is the interactive portion of today's topic. If you're on YouTube watching this, leave a comment down below answering what is it that you think happy people know that unhappy people do not know. If you're in the room at Unlocked Church today, this is your interactive portion. As I'm on my way to Lowe's, would you tap the person next to you, maybe nudge them, and let them know what is it that you think happy people know that unhappy people do not know. Tripod installed on this camera so that we might be able to continue with our day. Now, what does this box have to do? What does this box have to do with happy people? What do happy people know about what's in a box? We're gonna head back to the church's office so that we might be able to explain, why did I pick up a box and what does that have to do with what do happy people know?
A few moments later.
All right, we made, hey Lil.
Hi.
Can I use your desk really quick?
Sure.
All right, we're back from all of this shopping. Thanks for coming along on the journey. We're trying to talk about what do happy people know that unhappy people do not know. We're gonna use, not this. We're gonna use this. I know this is a toolbox from Lowe's, but we all carry a said box in our lives. It just might not look like this. Some of you might have decorated yours. It might be blinged out, I'm not sure. But we're gonna talk about what's in your box and what are your expectations with other people when it comes to a box. So let's start filling this said box with some things that we all carry around. that we're going to talk about in 1 second. We're going to talk about what happy people know about these topics and they carry around in their box, which we all do, but happy people do something with it that unhappy people do not do. This week is the beginning of one of the most monumental moments in a follower of Jesus' life. That's Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday begins the 7 days before Jesus is arrested, crucified, and then comes back to life on Easter next Sunday. We're talking about happy, right? Happy. Does Jesus even want us to be happy? The answer to that is absolutely, Jesus wants us to be happy. Does he promise a life of happiness? No, listen, Jesus is our example on how to do life as a follower of Jesus, and Jesus died a cruel death. He was beaten and abused, made fun of while he was on this earth, all those things. So our example of who we are following does not actually ensure that we are going to have a life of bliss and no problems. Actually, Jesus gives us an illustration of how to handle our problem. Jesus' first teaching was blessed are. It's the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus gathered, or there were a gathering of people on this side of a mountainside, and Jesus began to teach them, and he began to say, blessed are those that do said things. Blessed means happy. And he begins to make a list. Hey, you want to be happy? These are the things you do to be happy. And they're really tough things to do. Happy people try to listen to what Jesus is saying and then do something about it. And these topics are an example of things that people have done something about it. So let's really quick talk about what happy people put in their box, and here it goes. First one up is family. Hope, love, fitness, support, career, dream, finances. All these things end up in this box. My next question to those of you that are watching today, are you happy? When it comes to your spouse or your kids, are you happy? Because if you're not happy, that means something has gone wrong with your box. So you're like, I know, just tell me what to do with my box. If you're unhappy with your life, in your situation, that means you did something with your box that you should not have done. Unhappy people are now going, hold on, well, what is it? What's the remedy? I'm not the one that's come up with the remedy. I actually learned the remedy not from some how-to speech or from a self-help book. Did you know that the #1 book section, if you go to a Barnes & Noble or anything like that, did you know that they exist still? The #1 section in Barnes & Noble is a self-help section. People are trying to figure out how to fix themselves. And if they would only do something with their box that very few people want to do, they would be happy. All right, we're gonna head out to the lake here and check the thaw and let you answer the question, are you a happy person? I was on my way out to the lake and my shoes are soaked because the water is melted and I fell through. So the condition of the lake in ice in Minnesota, not walkable right now. We're gonna go to a different way to try to get out onto the lake. I saw people fishing this morning, so I know it's possible. So I'm gonna figure it out here, I think. I really wanted to go this way, it's the shortcut. So we're pausing on our destination to the lake to finish the concept of what do happy people know that unhappy people do not. Your box, which is over my left shoulder over there in the trees there, do you see it there? We carry around this box with our expectations of what our family life's gonna be like one day, our financial situation, our dreams. Last week we talked about, man, what is the God-given dream God has given you? What are your expectations in that dream? And what happens when we bump into people? walking by them, when we join in a relationship with them, we give them our box. And we say, my box now is your box. You are in direct responsibility now of my finances, my career, my other relationships, my dreams. Now, what are you going to do with them? And that's where unhappy people find their unhappiness, is because they get let down by people. Now, here's what I have learned in my short life, 40 years of living, that my box is to be my responsibility. My responsibility as a human being is to come around and take other people's boxes from them and say, how can I help them in what's inside their box? Now, this principle that I'm talking about is not original to me. It's not even brand new to me. This is something that was taught to us by Jesus, something that actually is mind-blowing when you think about it, which is be the first to be last. Instead of the first to be first, it's the first to be last. It's a race to be last. It's who can be in last place first. Now that grinds your gears, I'm sure, because it's like, wait a second, I want these big dreams and aspirations, but if I am trying to be the first to be last, that means I must put other people in front of me. Exactly. We learn this concept from Jesus in the way that he did life. See, he came on this earth and didn't come as a king or a general to an army. He came as a servant. He came to serve others. It actually says that in our owner's manual, the Bible, that he came to serve man and not to be served. And we act more like kings and queens in our lives than we do a servant, because in Western culture, a servant is looked down upon. Now, I'm a very competitive guy and I like to be first all the time. But when I look at the words of Jesus, and Jesus speaks of fight to be last, are you fighting to be last? Are you fighting at work to help those that work with you fight for their pay raise, to fight for their upgrade in position, or are you just trying to get yours? Because when you begin to fight for them, you will find that there are things attached to when we serve people. I'm not saying that then you get the promotion. I'm not saying that you get the pay raise, but I am saying that you will find some kind of happiness involved in it if you fight for other people. Now, I think there's a place that we can go to really illustrate this about other people. All right, so I want to read this really quick from Matthew chapter 20, verse 25. Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lords it over them, and their high officials exercise their authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to be great among you must be your servant. Whoever wants to be great must serve." These are Jesus' words, not mine. Jesus goes on and says, "And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give life as a ransom for many." Those are words of Jesus saying, hey, if you want to be great, actually want to be profound in life, it's to serve those over my shoulder. It's to serve those behind me who are carrying their box, to ask them, how can you help them with their said box, the things that are in their box? Instead of saying, hey, what can you do for me? How are you going to improve my life? It's asking, how can I improve your life? And there is a tension to be managed there. After reading that verse where Jesus talks about, hey, it is a race to be last, not a race to be first, it's like me walking up and down the street here just looking for somebody to hand my box off to and say, it's your responsibility now to make me happy. As long as you take care of my dreams and my expectations and you take care of my stuff, we're gonna get along really good. I mean, you see the breakdown in marriage all the time where the wife is mad at the husband or the husband mad at the wife because they didn't take care of their dreams. They didn't spend the resources on their dreams. It was on their their dreams. You get what I'm saying? The argument starts because of selfish desire. I just was hearing a story of somebody that's upset at their manager or their leader because they didn't lead them. At the end of the day, that's you handing off your box and saying, hey, lead me. Take my box, take my dreams and aspirations and do something with them. It's not their responsibility, and it's your responsibility actually to go to those people and go, can I see what's in your box and how can I help you? We say it here at Unlocked Church all the time. See a need and meet a need. We're simply saying, hey, what's your need in your box? I think I can help you. That's the idea here. Now, easier said than done? Absolutely. Next day, we ran into some complications. No, we didn't run into complications. We just ran out of time and had to get back to the house to do students because we were shooting on a Wednesday night. So this is a Thursday, a little bit colder than it was yesterday, but we're still on the topic of your box versus somebody else's box and what do happy people know that unhappy people do not know. And I think hopefully you're already getting it. Happy people understand it's not about doing life with people with what can you do with my box. It's doing life with people and asking what can I do with what's inside your box. I wanted to use one of my favorite verses out of the Bible to help explain this from the author James. James writes in a book that he wrote where he's trying to teach people about what his brother Jesus had to say on topics. And he writes in James chapter 4, he answers the question, why do we fight? Why do we get into arguments? Why is there confrontations in the world? James starts with this. What causes fights and quarrels among you? I know some of you know this verse. Some of you are already jumping, well, I think it's this and this. I wonder, would you leave a comment down below at this moment on our YouTube channel and answer the question, why do you think people fight in the world? And if you're in the auditorium at Unlocked Church right now, maybe really quick, tell your neighbor really quick, why do you think there are fights among us as you get some great aerial shots of the Twin Cities right here. James then comes back and says, don't they come from your desires that battle within you? So our fights, our confrontations, our arguments come from what's already inside you and me. It's the problem we have when somebody isn't helping us with our box. It's not your concern to worry about your box and your dreams. It's really worrying about helping other people in their needs. I know I've already said it, there's a tension there to be managed of, what do you do with that tension? James, the author James goes on and says, you desire but do not have, so you kill. You covet but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. Right at the end there, he kind of leaves just a little bit of like a chocolate on your pillow kind of thing, like a little bit of a treat there. He's like, you don't have because you're not asking. And if you're not willing to ask, probably means you know the answer is already, I shouldn't have it. Like, oh God, I really want a brand new Porsche, or I want an upgrade in my spouse. You don't pray, you don't ask for those things because you know the answer. That's not what God wants for us. So, why do we have fights? Why do we feel used and abused by people? Because it's the fights that are inside us. So now we have to ask ourselves, what do we do with what's inside us? And stop pointing fingers at other people and say, it's your fault because you didn't pick up my box. Just a thought for you to ponder. Talking about Jesus' half-brother James right there, right? Who is James? Who is his half-brother? If you've ever seen the movie Step Brothers?
Yeah. You like guacamole?
Oh! is kind of the idea where Jesus's father is different than his brother James. James's father is Joseph. Joseph is the stepfather to Jesus because Jesus's father is God. So therefore, they both have the same mom, Mary, but different dads. So they're stepbrothers, not full brothers. I always love to be able to share about James because it's a sibling to Jesus. And I don't know about you, I always say it like this. It would really take a lot for me to believe that one of my siblings was the Messiah, God's son, until something massive happened, like Jesus dying on a cross and raising again. James didn't believe that his brother was who he was until he died on a cross and rose again. That's why it's so profound to be able to read the words of James. He just taught us, what are the fights among us? You know, think where he might have learned that from. I have a feeling he probably learned that from his brother. He probably learned that from his brother Jesus. What do you think? We want to wrap up today. What is it that happy people know that unhappy people just haven't adapted to yet? I hope you're understanding it, and I hope we're talking about, you know, what are you supposed to do with all this stuff in your box? I know you're not carrying around a box like this, like I am, but you are. It's invisible. It's what's in your heart. It's those ambitions that you might not be telling anyone, but somewhere in your mind, you've put the responsibility on those closest to you. It's their responsibility to help you achieve those things. I hope today we're freeing you from that so that you might be able to have great relationships with your friends, with your spouse, with your coworkers, your employees, whoever you're in relationship with. I hope this is inspiring you to think it differently, to do it differently, to take the words of Jesus and apply them. That's my hope. And as we are touring around the Twin Cities in Maple Grove, I really hope we're inspiring you to stop giving your box to other people and start asking people, how can I help you? I know we're saying that repeating, but I want it to sink in because after all, that's what Jesus did. Let's wrap up the idea of the box, which actually, I need the box. There it is. Remember, so long ago we started by putting stuff in here, and it's been in here the whole time. We've been traveling with this all day, or actually over the last few days, and we've got all these words in here. My love. Man, I'm giving my love to someone, and if they love me right, then I feel loved, I feel good about myself, and we have all of these things. My hope placed in someone else. It's the box we carry around, and the danger is if we don't learn from Jesus and what to do with it, then we're going to be really frustrated our entire life inside relationships. So if you find yourself frustrated inside a relationship, then you're not handling your box correctly. Remember, we're learning words from Jesus, not from me today. I want to wrap up with one last verse that actually you're going to think has everything to do with marriage, but it has everything to do with relationships. And the author Paul writes a message to a church that he started, and he titled his book Ephesians because it was to a church plant in Ephesus. Let me bust out my Bible today on my iPhone. Ephesians chapter 5 verse 21. The header for this section of Ephesians chapter 5 is instructions for the Christian household. It doesn't say instructions for a husband and wife. However, Paul speaks to husbands and wife. And I believe and I think that marriage is a great illustration of how healthy relationships should function. And so Paul's trying to speak to this is what a healthy marriage looks like, but also healthy relationships. Here we go. Verse 21 of chapter 5 of Ephesians. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Christ Jesus, out of reverence, out of humility, out of respect to Jesus, we are to submit to one another. Submit is to grab a hold of somebody else's box and says, your priorities are now my priorities, not my priorities are now yours. See, if we would If we spend more time worrying about other people's priorities versus ours, we'll find ourselves more happy and less disgruntled about the lack of movement in our items in our box. Verse 22 goes on and says, "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord." I know exactly what everyone, in light of our culture, you're just like, oh, that verse grinds me. Well, we looked up the word submit. Submit is to yield, is to pause. Let the other one go first. I said it earlier. It's a race to be the first one that is last. It's a race. What if inside every relationship we fought to be the first one to be last? You can have the extra piece. Where do you want to eat, not where I want to eat. Now, at some point, somebody's got to make a decision, or you don't make any decisions. I understand, but this is not speaking this evil context of submission. Our culture has totally taken submission as a sign of weakness, and women are fighting for women's rights, and I believe women are capable of doing amazing things, that women do have rights. I'm not trying to fight against what culture is trying to say. Jesus just comes on the scene and says, hold up. Wives, submit to your husband. Okay? As you do for the Lord. Okay, now let's go to, because the husband's like, yeah, nudging the ass. See, I told you. So then we go to verse 25. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. It's talking to men and women. Now, it's inside the context of marriage, because I think marriage is a great illustration of what relationships should look like. Women, men, find yourself submitting to people, yielding, pausing to other people's dreams and expectations and their desires. Men, love everyone like Jesus loved the church. He ultimately gave his life for the church. If we do those things, we will be happy. Happy people know it's not about what's in your box, it's about what is in other people's boxes. So I leave you with this thought. Are you carrying only your box, or are you carrying somebody else's box in your life? That's the thought. If you're not happy, it's because you're not carrying other people's dreams and hopes and desires. You're living for all of your hopes, dreams, and desires, and Jesus comes into the scene and says, hey, hold up. I've got something different than what culture's saying. Don't live for yourself, but live for other people. Take a moment and answer this question. What is Jesus saying to you today, and what are you going to do about it?